feel like the defense led to offense. What impressed you the most about this win?
From the start of the season, effort and competitiveness have been good. It's not a bad thing to have these type of chippy games.
The Rockets have won 4 in a row. Straight road wins for a Rockets team that had but 8 road wins all season coming into.
In the immediate aftermath of the James Harden era, the Houston Rockets were terrible. After 8 consecutive playoff appearances, including 2 trips to the Western Conference Finals, the Rockets sank to the bottom of the West for 3 consecutive seasons. However, those difficult years in the basement allowed Houston to undergo a proper rebuild and emerge as a vastly upgraded team this season. A new coach, 2 massive veteran free agents, and the visible improvement from their young prospects have helped lift the Rockets to the edge of the play-in tournament. At least one of their young prospects has firmly solidified his status as a cornerstone player, with center Alperen Şengün breaking out as one of the league's best offensive bigs. But a recent injury that forced him off of the court in a wheelchair threatens to end his season, and potentially the Rockets as well. However, Houston has responded with one of the best stretches of the season, due in large part to Jalen Green, the first draft pick of the Houston Rockets rebuild. Green has struggled this season with consistency, efficiency, and sometimes late game benchings. Now Green's resurgent stretch has thrust the spotlight onto Houston's big picture potential and his future with the team. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we got all that out of the way, do the intro. Look right over here, you'll see all of these wonderful human beings that have been able to make some money by playing Prize Picks. And I give away my picks for free each and every day on my Instagram at TheFlightMike and Snapchat at FlightMikeSnap. And right now they're hooking up my subscribers fat when you use my promo code FlightMike when you sign up for Prize Picks. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? When the Houston Rockets traded James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets, they signaled that their path back to sustainable success would be through the draft. The Rockets have acquired the next 7 years of Brooklyn's first round picks from 2021 through 2027. Houston received 3 unprotected picks and 4 pick swaps from the Nets, plus a Milwaukee first round pick from the Cavaliers. They tried to have it both ways by acquiring Victor Oladipo as a star to build around, but he would make a horrific mistake, rejecting a contract extension, and then would get traded to the Miami Heat after just 20 games. Choosing to acquire Oladipo was a clear mistake, and the Rockets probably should have just held on to Jarrett Allen and Karis LeVert anyways. But this blunder didn't seriously derail the Rockets in the long run, because their expensive draft capital incentivized being terrible. And the Rockets were really terrible. Houston had the worst record in the league between 2000 to 2021 and 2022 to 2023. However, along the way, the Rockets began drafting the core that they hoped would bring them back to relevance. To begin the climb back, Houston drafted guard Jalen Green with the number 2 overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft. They'd end up with 4 first-round players after acquiring the 16th overall pick, Turkish center Alperen Şengün from OKC. Houston began the 2022 draft by selecting forward Jabari Smith 3rd overall as one of 3 first-round picks, which included Tari Eason going 17th overall. To begin the 2023 offseason, they hired Ime Udoka as their new head coach after he was ultimately dismissed from the Boston Celtics for violating team policies. They made 2 more first-round selections, Amen Thompson 4th overall and Cam Whitmore 20th overall. To that point, the Rockets hadn't made much of an effort to acquire veteran players since trading James Harden, preferring to tank and let their young guys play through their mistakes without serious expectations to win. But at a certain point, the wins needed to come, which is why Houston decided to finally bring in veteran help. Armed with nearly $60 million in cap space after the draft, which was the most in the league, the Rockets got aggressive. Houston signed guard Fred VanVleet, a former All-Star and NBA champion, forward Dylan Brooks, an all-defensive player and elite agitator, and Jeff Green, who was fresh off of a championship with the Denver Nuggets. Houston even came close to landing Brook Lopez, although he ultimately re-signed with Milwaukee. They continued filling out their roster with veteran in players like Aaron Holiday, Reggie Bullock, and the affable Boban Marjanovic, as well as a large contract to big man Jock Landale. Suddenly, the baby Rockets, cellar dwellers for 3 consecutive seasons, had champions and grizzled playoff vets, as well as a head coach who had recently led a team to the NBA Finals. It was safe to say that the Houston Rockets had higher aspirations entering this season, along with expectations to win a lot more, but the Rockets would have a rough takeoff. Houston began the season 0-3, failing to reach 100 points twice, but soon after their season turned around for the better. The Rockets promptly rattled off 6 wins in a row, and one player stood out immediately. After making a substantial jump from year 1 to year 2, Alperen Şengün went up another level in year 3. As the team's leading scorer and rebounder between his efficiency and crafty playmaking, he quickly became one of the best offensive centers in the NBA. Van Vliet and Brooks became game changer next to Şengün, giving the young big man consistent point guard play and viable three-point shooting to give him space. Yes, the Rockets alternated between winning and losing streaks through the end of 2023, but they were winning much more frequently and they were seeing visible improvement in their young guys. Şengün wasn't the only one. Jabari Smith's development can be seen through his performance and his stats, which have improved across the board. After missing the start of the season, Tari Eason fortified his sterling reputation as a rebounder and topped his rookie shooting numbers. Amen Thompson also took on a sizable rebounding role with efficient scoring in early limited action. But aside from Şengün, perhaps the most high-stakes player on the Houston Rockets, who will heavily affect the Houston Rockets' future, is Jalen Green. Green spent his first 2 seasons as a high-volume, low-efficiency scorer on teams that didn't even sniff relevancy. One of the biggest questions entering this season was how Green would fare next to better players and a better culture. The Rockets of yesteryear sent Kevin Porter Jr. home during a game and suspended him and Christian Wood for poor behavior. In fact, they'd eventually bar Porter from the team after his DV arrest before trading him away ahead of the season. Before that, during the 2021 to 2022 season, they couldn't trade John Wall's massive contract or agree on a role, so they elected to sit him for the entire season in order to give Green and younger guards more minutes. During that time, with Wall still technically on the team, he told Green that he and the young core would be expected to do more in a different situation.
Like, I always wanted to teach them, like, don't get used to this, not how the NBA is.
Right.
Like, it's just a bad organization right now. Like, they got to fix some shit around. But, like, I always talk to Jalen Green, Kevin Porter, KJ. I'm like, yo, don't get adjusted to this losing shit. It's not how the league is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had to tell them, like, what y'all getting away with over here? You go to any other teams, you be out the league.
You be
Like, you wouldn't play.
You're not playing.
I wouldn't play.
No facts.
So I'm trying to explain that to them because they think it's sweet. And I'm like, if you ever get traded and go somewhere else, you can be like, this motherfucker was right.
So this is the environment where Green put up his number, which included a lack of another viable offensive option and often would result in blowout losses. While his talent was unquestioned, his consistency and ability to impact winning were still unproven. If the Rockets were really going to move on from the bad vibes and losing, Jalen Green would need to be one of the causes of that change. But through Houston's up and down start, his numbers looked worse and his status as a late game closer remained insecure. Udoka benched Green for the entire fourth quarter of a late December loss to Golden State, saying he liked the lineup he already had on the floor during their late comeback. After scoring just 7 points, Jalen Green was benched down the stretch in a December win over San Antonio before getting benched again in a victory over Memphis in the next game where he just scored 8 points. His poor stretch raised questions about his status in the starting lineup, and that was only the beginning of a particularly brutal 10-game stretch, which featured a 9-game and a 5-game performance. After his 5-point outing, Jalen Green posted this cryptic message on his Instagram story saying, "Welp, this is it." During the post-game press conference, Ime Udoka explained the reasoning behind the decision to limit Jalen Green's fourth quarter minutes in both games and his 6th late game benching of the season.
I don't know if he's getting the best looks, but second guessing, for sure you can see that. You don't want to be aggressive initially, but you have to be able to do both. And I think it's times struggling to read what they're doing, pass up some looks and, force some others. And so just got to continue to improve in that area, read the game and take what it gives you. At times, if you have the open shot, the first look you get is a lot of times the best one. And so it's something he'll grow into and get better at, but teams are putting one of their better defenders on him and paying attention to him. And
as the calendar flipped to January, the Rockets continued regularly alternating between wins and losses as Şengün continued to be Houston's best player. He won the Western Conference Player of the Week in early January as the Rockets hovered around 500. The rookie showed signs of blossoming as well. Amen Thompson saw his minutes increase as he earned more playing time. Cam Whitmore began playing more consistently and quickly proved himself to be an effective scorer off of the bench. After surprisingly sliding in the draft, he already looks like a steal. Meanwhile, questions still remained about Jalen Green's consistency. During one 5-game stretch, he averaged nearly 30 points per game, during which he would also post 3 consecutive double-doubles. But in February, Jalen Green had games with scoring nights of 8, 7, and 4 ahead of the All-Star break. Still, the Houston Rockets seemed committed to work things out and keep him ahead of the trade deadline, probably because he still dropped the occasional 30-point game or his first career triple-double. Plus, they wanted to keep their starting lineup as is. In fact, the only in-season trade that they've made has minimal impact on winning right now, but bodes well for the next season. The Houston Rockets acquired Steven Adams from the Memphis Grizzlies in exchange for 3 second-round picks and Victor Oladipo's reacquired contract. Victor, you really should have signed that original contract extension with Houston, man. But that was to give more frontcourt help to their best player, Şengün. If the Rockets had an all-star snub, it was most definitely him, not Jalen Green, and he continued to perform like a star in early March. He scored a career-high 45 points in a victory over the Spurs, adding 16 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 steals, and 1 block as he dominated his matchup against rookie phenom Victor Wembanyama. Şengün became just the 5th player ever with 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 steals in a game. He followed that up a night later with a monster triple-double in a loss versus the Clippers, 23 points, 19 rebounds, and 14 assists. But just as the Rockets appeared to be rounding the corner in March, they got hit with the injury bug. First, it was Tari Eason, who had to have season-ending leg surgery after playing in only 22 games. But soon after getting that news, Houston would suffer an injury so scary that it threatened to destabilize the rest of their season. Late in the 4th quarter against Sacramento, Şengün got back on defense to defend a Domantas Sabonis fast break layup. However, he landed awkwardly and immediately crumpled to the ground in pain. In fact, he was in so much pain that he had to leave the court in a wheelchair. The Rockets won the game, but at the cost of their best player, who they'd find out suffered a severely sprained ankle and bruised knee. Luckily for the Rockets, he didn't require surgery, and there's still a chance for him to return this season. However, significant healing would have to occur in the next few weeks in order for him to play again this season. Making the playoffs would help his chances, but playing without him, Eason, and the recently injured Cam Whitmore will make that tough task even more difficult. The Rockets have spent most of their 2024 sporting a losing record, and unless something changes significantly, it's going to stay that way. And as a matter of fact, something did change in the immediate aftermath of Şengün's injury. Jalen Green took over. Fred VanVleet and Green helped edge the Spurs in a close win before Green really exploded over the following 2 games. He dropped a season-high 37 points, including a jaw-dropping crossover in a double-digit victory over the Washington Wizards. He followed that up with a 26-point double-double as the Rockets took down the Cleveland Cavaliers. That led to Green winning the Western Conference Player of the Week before having one of the best scoring nights of his entire career. Jalen Green tied a career high with 42 points and added 10 rebounds in an uber-efficient game, leading to another comfortable victory over the Wizards. He became the 3rd Rocket ever with 40 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 threes in a game. After the game, Udoka praised the growth he'd seen in Jalen Green's shot selection, while stating how important his offensive decision-making is to the team.
That's the main thing. Regardless of whatever the reads or whatever, you have to be confident to knock down those shots or take them if you make or miss a few, and he's done that. And so we always stress taking the right shot regardless of the result, and when he's taking those shots without thinking about it, reading the defenses and being aggressive, especially the pace that we've picked up and played with that faster pace, I think that gets him in the open court. He sees some easy ones go down, and then the basket kind of opens up for him. And so, we'll live with the results if he takes the right ones, and that's across the board. But he's really been aggressive, and you can see his confidence skyrocket when 1 or 2 goes down.
Since the beginning of March, the Rockets are 8-1 and have not slowed down without Şengün. Suddenly, the Houston Rockets can't stop winning. Green is an essential part of that, but so are the other players who have stepped up all season. VanVleet has had a strong first season in Houston, posting a career high in assists while owning one of the best assist to turnover ratios in the league. Dillon Brooks is having his best 3-point shooting season across a full season of his career. He and Ime Udoka have helped bring a true defensive identity to H-Town, with the team boasting a top 10 defensive rating and a borderline top 10 scoring scoring defense, something that seemed unimaginable a season prior. Amin Thompson has continued to improve with more playing time each month and now serves as the new cog in Houston's starting lineup. And while Green's scoring numbers and efficiency have waned or remained similar overall, he's improving those numbers with his recent play, and analytically speaking, is having the best defensive season of his career. The Houston Rockets still have a losing record, and the playoffs are still unlikely, but they appear to have found an identity. The starting five of Van Vliet, Green, Brooks, Smith, and Şengün have been a little over 500 this season in 45 games. In fact, Denver's starting lineup is the only five-man lineup that's seen the floor together for longer than that group. Yes, the Rockets spent big in free agency for some significant win-now transactions, but they haven't gone all in on the present like the teams ahead of them have. The Mavericks, Suns, Lakers, and Warriors have made trades involving first-round picks, stars, and massive salary commitments just to be a few games ahead of the Houston Rockets. That might say more about those teams, but it could also mean that the Houston Rockets aren't as far away from relevancy as many might think. Plus, they still control 4 more years of Brooklyn's first-round picks, a huge factor considering the Nets' rapid descent down the standings this season. Şengün's evolution will continue to propel the team forward, as well as their improving stable of young prospects, but their unlikely race to the play-in could inform their decision on what to do with Jalen Green. While not their best player when Şengün is healthy, the Rockets have leaned on him heavily with their trio of significant injuries depleting their depth. So far, the results have been pretty good. The ceiling of what Green can be on any given night isn't who he is shown to be on a night-in, night-out basis. However, if this consistency continues improving and the Rockets keep winning, it will make a somewhat complex decision way easier. If the Rockets were to trade Jalen Green, this would be the offseason to do it. They could get a sizable return as he becomes eligible for a contract extension while still maintaining a sizable young talent base along with a likely all-star in Şengün. But it can be hard to move on from someone who can explode as a scorer and make ridiculous highlight-worthy plays on a regular basis. The Rockets organization took a tangible step in the right direction this season, and even if they miss the playoffs or the play-in, they'll have a lot to build on. If Şengün returns next to the latest version of Jalen Green either next month or next season, we could be witnessing Houston's return to truly contending once again. Let me know in the comment section down below, what should the Houston Rockets decide? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.